following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, and welcome to The People's View. The People's View is sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee, and you can read more about the committee by going to their website, nashuagop.org. And tonight we have Dan Moriarty, currently Ward 9 Alderman, but yes, now you're going to be running this fall for At-Large Alderman.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so why are you running for now something where you got to go through the whole city instead of the ward you live in?
I'm running because I get to go through the whole city.
Ah, okay.
Instead of just one ward. I'd actually never said that before. I just realized that the way you asked the question, it made me it occurred to me. That's one way of describing it. But the other way is basically, first, a lot of people have suggested that I give it a try. And so I was encouraged along the way. You can't do anything of this magnitude by yourself successfully.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes. A ward alderman campaign can be a one-man job. It's
difficult.
It's difficult, but it can be done.
Possible, yeah.
A citywide campaign is not a one-person operation, and
it's a city of over 80,000 people. It's a lot of people to try to see.
That's right, and I've had a lot of support along the way from people that I'm just meeting with, campaigning, helping other people, and the residents, the citizens. Some people have asked, some of my peers have been concerned, and a couple of the people that I respect the most, their concern was genuine, that they were worried that I was running at large because they didn't want me to lose, because then I'd be missed from the board. And I liked that. That was nice hearing that.
Well, that says something about your activity too, that they liked what you did, and you made a vocal presence there on the board. Yeah, yes. Some people who wouldn't like me would say, please run so that you'll lose and we'll get rid of you. But fortunately, that hasn't happened. Or maybe some people do, they just haven't said it to me yet. But anyway, yes, so I enjoy people, I enjoy working with the city, and being an alderman at large, it allows me to more effectively do my job. As it is, I feel like I'm representing the city as a whole. I do my best to do constituent relations in Ward 9. At my ward, I've had 2 ward meetings so far. I need to have a 3rd here soon enough. And I have a long list of things that I was able to accomplish. I'm not taking credit for all of them because there are a lot of people in the city hall that help out. And of course, my chief of staff, Dave McLaughlin, he was an alderman for 6 years. And so he helped me learn the process quickly enough so that now I feel comfortable enough to go at large. When you say your chief of staff, sounds like you already got your organization put together. Well, it started out as a staff of 2, me and him. But yeah, it's the best title I could say. He's not a campaign manager because I really manage my own campaign, but we work together. Well, you need an organization once you're going to go for. You do. We do, and we do. The real answer, we do at the moment have quite an organization. We've campaigned for a lot of people for the past year and a half, and we had a lot of dinner meetings over the past 18 months. We spent a lot of money meeting people, asking them, talking to them, bringing them on board, and we have at least, I wouldn't say 100 people ready to work, but we at least have more than 10 or 20. I imagine you got to go get somebody in every ward there, and there's 9 wards, and you ought to be able to have somebody speaking up for you on those wards. Right. Exactly. It is, this town is one where you have to know people, and
your neighbors are the ones that have to talk to you about who's running.
Yes, and where I am now in the campaign is I'm meeting people. That's my goal, is to meet. We want to meet as many people as possible between now and Election Day. Obviously, when I ran for Ward 9, my goal was, if you wanted 1,000 people to vote for you, you have to walk up and ask 1,000 people to vote for you. This is, I need 8,000 people to vote for me, so I have to ask 8,000 people to vote for me, and that's what I'm going to try and do.
Well, how many people are running for the 4-year term?
So at the moment, I can count 6, including the 3 incumbents and myself.
Okay.
So it's going to be a competitive field, that's for
I
sure.
would think so, yeah.
It will probably, yeah.
I mean, you have to defeat one of the incumbents.
Exactly, yeah, and that's a tough job. So again, and it is somewhat unfortunate that the 3 incumbents are generally favorable in the voting bloc that I am with, but I'm not running against them. I'm running for a position, and as long as I keep that in mind, I'm running for a position, then it doesn't get personal. It's focused on the whole objective, which is to represent the citizens of Nashua.
And what do you believe is the strongest thing that you bring to represent those people? I mean, what aspect of your approach to the city items that you think is appropriate?
I'd have to think about that, and I could answer a couple of things. I'll start with the obvious, which I'm an engineer, and so I think sort of analytically about things. In addition to that, let me back up a little bit. I have a great job. I like that. I have 4 kids that are fantastic. I'm a successful triathlete. I'm happy, so I don't need to win the vote to make Dan happy. I don't need to win the vote. So I'm able to keep myself emotionally disconnected from the task at hand so that it doesn't become a personal issue, and so that it doesn't become my opinion. And so it allows me to keep the perspective in order to remain as an engineering analytical approach to try and weigh the facts and make sure the process is done properly and go from there.
Well, I noticed that getting into what you're doing now, last night was a budget night where you voted on a budget, and
Yes.
You felt strongly enough to vote against it.
Yes.
How does that fit into your approach with all the things that you'd be covering as an alderman?
Well, the budget is probably the single most impactful vote that you make in the year, based on the fact that it's a $250 million budget. This year, it was less contentious. That's really not the word. It was going to pass on the first night. There wasn't enough. Last year, it went over a couple nights of full board of aldermen, a lot of negotiating. Then we had to call each other a little bit, and this year was a little more straightforward. There are other votes that there's a lot more build-up to it, and the people really rally behind that. The vote is like everybody's staring at you, and you see that. This wasn't that case, but nevertheless, it was an impactful just because of its size. And so I had to make sure that I had a reason to go one way or another. Because it was going to pass, and I could have voted yes, I could have voted no, and in the grand scheme of things, the way I voted had no impact on anything in the end, because they had the votes for it. But I voted no, number one, because the way it was structured. The first reason was that the taxpayers just can't afford more tax increases. If there are going to be tax increases, then I need to be able to justify them. And last year's budget, I was able to justify it somewhat. In the future, I imagine budgets continuing to grow. Hopefully, it's at just the inflation rate and not at more the inflation rate like it has been in the past. As long as it's within the inflation rate, then the people's lifestyles grow at the inflation rate, and then maybe things can be managed. And because there are a lot of things in the budget, there are a lot of things in the city that need to be addressed that haven't been. So even if we make cuts, there are a lot of things that need to be covered. But again, if there's going to be a tax increase, I need to be able to justify that. I need to be able to convince.
And you felt you couldn't?
I couldn't.
just-
I didn't think I could because, number one, let's look at the biggest portion of the budget is the school budget. You hear different numbers of the percentage. It's 57% of the budget. If you look at just the budget to the school, it's 51, but there's a lot of bond on things. So it's 51% associated to the school budget. So that's a huge amount. So within the school budget, again, as an engineer, I'm like, what's most impactful? Slight digression here. Yesterday, there were a lot of a few motions were made in principle. A motion made to remove $6,000 on a line item, which I voted for. But some of those motions were made out of principle. But as an engineer, I have to step back and say, what's the most impactful part that I can do? And the most impactful is the school budget. And what I found is, in summary, it's an imbalance. There's way too much in salaries and not enough in building maintenance. So the only way to bring the salaries under control is to have fewer teachers. Now, I'm not proposing laying off teachers, but this year they hired 12 more staff. The student enrollment is not going up, so there should not be a reason for the staff to go up.
Now, the staff, you mean teachers or administrative staff?
It's a combination, mostly teachers and then some administrative staff, but mostly teachers. But sometimes it's hard to do this year, apples and oranges, especially because they changed the accounting method. But bottom line, they added 12 people. And the student enrollment is not going up. Now, granted, there are some classrooms that have high student to teacher ratios, especially in 5th grade, there are a few. And that needs to be addressed. But at this point, we really need, the Board of Education needs to really make the hard decisions, which they're not doing, in my opinion. They need to make the hard decisions. They need to have a leader on the Board of Education that's willing to stick his neck out for the taxpayers and still help the students. And rearrange the number of students. In high school and middle school, the ratios are in good shape. Let some of them leave by attrition and come in and address
Replace them with a different area.
And Superintendent Conrad did that to some extent. He removed 5 spots from the high school and put them down in kindergarten to fight a fire. But now that the student enrollment is not going up, it had been going down for a while. The buildings, we're looking at about a $6 million per year for the next 5 years, bonds, to pay for building maintenance for the elementary schools. That's a lot of money. And it's been deferred maintenance because it's accumulated over many years of just not focusing on the basics, not maintaining the capital, not maintaining the building. That's the biggest reason. The school budget is imbalanced. They need to put more of a focus on building maintenance because at some time in the future, student enrollment is going to start going up again.
Okay.
And we're going to have to hire teachers then.
Yeah, that's true. So you have more worry about the budget of the school board rather than some of the budget that the mayor's directly responsible for?
The mayor's directly responsible for the Department of Public Works, and that I'm also concerned with. It's similar. There's an imbalance in that. So that's the Department of Public Works. If you exclude wastewater and water treatment, it's about 10 to 12% of the budget. But number one that I'm hearing, there's been several complaints, and this just reminded me of one of the major comments. One of the most frequent or more frequent comments I get from people that I've been visiting in the past several weeks and over the past 18 months is, when are they going to pave my road? I hear that a lot. I've been here for 30 years, and they've never paved the road. When are they going to pave the road? And I say, I'm going to try everything I can, but talk to my chief of staff here. He's been here for he was an alderman for 6 years, and it took him 6 years to get one road paved sometimes. It's a challenge. We need more money in the roads maintenance. That is just universal.
Does that have anything to do with any of the cutbacks on the state level? Because I know the state funds some of the roads in the city.
They may on some. I don't know this particular one. I can't confirm that.
Okay.
but I can compare, so let's compare how much are we spending on roads. The entire city budget for road repair is $1 million this year. $1 million for the entire city out of a $250 million budget. So it's very small. Meanwhile,
that isn't very much. I
the
agree.
Main Street project is budgeted at $500,000 for this year, not including labor. And there's big difference of opinion between that issue.
So are you saying you want to rather have that $500,000 on roads rather than doing anything on Main Street?
Not doing anything,
Okay.
but
Doing
certainly
less.
And it's not a $500,000, it's $500,000 in labor, in material, and it's, for my calculations, it's a $500,000. And so it's really, in reality, the Main Street project is costing us $1 million this year. It's going to be $1 million per year. So we have $1 million for Main Street, and we have $1 million for the rest of the city for as far as the road repair. So that's a little out of balance. So as far as, what is going on there? My apologies. I thought I turned that off. I'd say the second most frequent comment, if not the first most frequent comment of the people that I've met in the past couple of weeks in the previous 18 months, is about Main Street. I've collected 200 signatures so far. 200 people have endorsed me to run for Alderman At-Large. They've put their name on a piece of paper. And of those 200 people, one person had a positive comment about the Main Street project.
Really?
One person. So I'm not making this up when it's...
Well, you know, one thing, just from my perspective and what I read in the paper, it hasn't been a real good job of selling that in the beginning. You know, I mean, if the mayor wants to do this to dress up the city, I know they're having a campaign to brand the city and get more people who want to move here. But you need the publicity, you need to work it up, you need to get the people behind it before you go ahead and do it.
You do.
And it surprised me because I thought usually she's communicates some of her ideas a little bit better than that.
You are correct about that. We could speculate why it's, one thing yes, the mayor could possibly do a better job of including people and informing people of these types of things. The charter, the city charter gives the Department of Public Works, gives the Board of Public Works complete autonomy over this project. So she's not doing anything that she's not able to do. The charter gives her that authority, so that's fine. I'm not saying that at all. And there is a Downtown Improvements Committee that meets Friday mornings that has been addressing this. But I would, again, this is another issue. I think it's not managed properly. There should be a little more. I don't need to micromanage the project. I don't need to do that. But we need to have a level of confidence and trust in the style or the approach. And people were allowing a lot of leniency on that, saying, okay, we don't need to show up to every single Board of Public Works meeting and look over your shoulder. But when suddenly all the trees get cut down, that's when you throw up the red flag and say, okay, it's time to go to say foul. And that was it. So let me back up a little bit. It makes a lot of sense to improve the downtown, Main Street. And in the end, people are going to like the fact that it was improved. Now, I'm not so sure that what they're going to like, what they currently like about it, is this particular design or this particular style. But they like, this is new, this is clean, this looks nice. But I don't think they're all saying, I'm glad you replaced all the bricks with cement. I don't think they're saying, I'm glad you cut all the trees down and you changed them. That's not the case. So the approach could have been less one person design and direct the show, and it would have been better, in my opinion, to contract a professional landscape engineer, landscape architect to come up with the overarching principle of it, and then be more inclusive that way.
Well, there's another side to that too. Just going back to the Broad Street Parkway and how long that took to work out the final details. You start publicizing that, and you have more people than you have population with ideas of what should be done.
You're absolutely right.
So, do you think that she might have taken you know, a bit in, in her teeth and just went ahead and done it because she didn't want to be discussed for 5 more years.
I think that's a strong likelihood that possibility might have been. And in fact, Lisa Photo may have misspoken and may have a Freudian slip, or I don't know how but she said it's being done by the Department of Public Works because we have autonomy.
Oh, really? I see.
It was the way it was quoted was because we have autonomy. It sort of implied that the decision to go, you have the Department of Public Works do it instead of contracting it out, is because then it's on the Board of Public Works.
Yeah.
If it had been contracted out to a contractor, then you'll have 15 aldermen all arguing about whether you want to have brick or cement. But I'm also philosophical, and that's another reason why I feel compelled to say that I'll be a good candidate, I'll be a good Alderman at Large, because the taxpayers have no choice but to pay their taxes. You have to, whether you like it or not, pay your taxes. You can leave the city, but somewhere you're going to go, you're going to have to pay the taxes. So the government, City Hall, is obligated to do things differently than a corporation does. A corporation, you can have a CEO that says, here's what we're going to do. I don't have to tell anybody, and go do it. And if you don't do what I say, you're fired. Because the people involved have the opportunity to leave if they don't want it. But we have no choice as a Board of Aldermen, as a mayor, as city government, as a whole. Because you have no choice but to pay your taxes, we have the additional burden to move slowly and be inclusive with the public on all of these major decisions. And I think brick versus cement, or certainly cutting down all the trees, can possibly be counted as a major decision.
It's kind of a tightrope to walk, though.
It is. And I was making a similar statement to a friend of mine, and he was saying, you guys, the City Hall, it takes you $5 million to do something that we could do for $1 million. And in the end, it's going to be good. But again, we have an old phrase, the ends don't justify the means. And in government, that's probably one reason maybe why government should do less than it does. But in government, you have no choice but to move slowly and be methodical and take forever, because in the end, it will cost a little bit more. But that's what life is about. Because we're not a corporation, we have an obligation to the taxpayers and to the residents for their voices to be heard.
Well, I think one thing too is you have to do a lot more explaining to people. People don't like surprises, don't like to find out after it's happened that this is what was going to happen and we had an opportunity to stop it or change it or modify it or whatever. So you want to be inclusive, but at the same time, that tightrope you have to walk controls the money and controls the timing and all that.
It sure
does.
So
it's not a nice job to be an alderman, I don't think. Why are you running?
Apparently, it's why am I doing this? Well, you're making me second guess.
You like to hit your head against the wall or what?
I don't know.
Do you think you've made a difference, I guess, in what you've done so far with Ward 9? Obviously, Ward 9 people are happy with you.
The people have. One of the nicest comments that I've gotten from his constituent in a while is I was getting a nomination petition for him, and the lady comes out, and she yells to her husband, whatever, John, come out here. This is Alderman Moriarty. I watch him on TV, and we want him to come back. So come sign this petition for him. That's nice. Like, okay, I like to hear that.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. But again, so.
Did you ask her for her neighbors and friends and family living in
Exactly. Can you make a contribution, please? I'll send that email out if I haven't already.
Okay.
But another thing, I am sort of like the Pied Piper of angry white men. I don't know what it is. I got an email. My first introduction to this person was an email that I didn't know who the guy was. It said, "It is amazing you broke your arm patting yourself on the back, claiming you were saving funds." I'm like, that's the opening sentence of your email? And now he's a close ally.
Oh, really? I see.
So I don't take it personally. I understand that sometimes people, they're not all good at presenting themselves, but they have value. And if they're going to go out of their way to send me an email, I'm going to listen. I'm going to talk to them. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to comment back, and I'm going to say, thank you for paying attention. Your comments are great, and then address it. And then next thing you know, he's one of my most trusted allies.
And you're going to get 9 times the number of emails.
I get 9 times the hateful, venomous emails, and send them all over. I love them. Can't get enough.
Well, it sounds, I think you're really prepared to handle all this, but it is going to be complicated. And good luck on what you're doing, because I know it's an immense job to go out there and contact.
It is.
You're going to be running an organization. But the more government can operate, I think, like a company operates, and like your company operates, like the company I work with, where they make people understand ahead of time what's going to happen, why it's going to happen, why it's good to happen, and then check up on the groups that are under you to see whether they're actually doing what they claim they're doing or claim they should be doing. Because one of the things I found in Concord is all they look for is money, and there's no justification as to how well they spent it after the fact.
Okay.
That I think that even the auditing, and I'm not sure how much auditing is done in the city, but the state has a good auditing department. They look in, and the biggest departments like HHS gets audited every year. Others get audited maybe every other year or every third year. But they still don't follow the audit reports very much. And do you have anything like that operating in the city? Is there an audit department?
There's certainly nothing obvious that comes to mind, because
Okay.
I am not being overwhelmed with information of reports of the money being spent. On the other hand, there is a book that does report line by line the cost every month. So we know how much is being spent.
But you don't
by
know whether
line.
they accomplish the objectives.
We don't know if they accomplish objectives correctly. So there's a small accounting organization, and every penny is accounted for. It's software at that point, and you print out the book. One of the changes that I would like to see, which I thought was going to happen this January, had to do with the allocation of hours per project. And that would mean that the people that are filling out their time cards would have to have some sort of a task code or some sort of charge code or something that says, I spent this many hours on this project. And when I brought that up last November in the context of the Main Street project, we're trying to find out how much is being spent on this. And one of the answers that came back was, well, we have no way of recording their time, so we can't tell you how much we're spending on the Main Street project, labor-wise. To which I said, you've got to be kidding me. But that's the case. Those types of things cost money. It's an overhead. Where I work at BA Systems, there's a 10, 15, 20% overhead.
Well, you have to justify it to the federal
We
auditors.
absolutely do. And BA Systems is a great example of a very ethical company that would be good to model for how government should work, because it's government funded, and we have to be we have to report everything, and everything, and no mixing of money. So I know it can be done. And if the city were to have it's a piece of software so that when they type in a task code, it keeps track of it for us. And then over time, the department heads and managers will get used to it, and then it'll just become second nature.
That's right.
And then you'll be able to say, okay, how much should the Main Street project cost? You just sort on task code, ABC, and there you go. It does not exist right now.
Do you, does the city evaluate their contractors as far as whether they do their projects on time, under budget, whatever?
And the short answer is yes, I believe so.
Because I know the state does it.
The state does it?
The state does it for the biggest ones, but not the smaller ones. And the smaller the department, the less follow-up is done on it.
And the example that I'll answer again from my experience with the Joint Special School Building Committee, and there is a school projects committee, subcommittee that meets before that. The Joint Special School Building Committee tends to last 10, 15 minutes long, and that's it. And it's just invoices,
Yeah.
invoices after invoices, and it's like my dream come true.
An accountant's dream.
David Dean and me hang out. We just like compare invoices. No, and so we do watch pretty closely there. And I actually asked a question similar to this at one point. The bid went out, and they always go to low bidder, always low bidder. And I asked the question, well, what happens if the low bidder just does a very poor job? And then the answer was, well, we don't go back to that person. So it has happened.
So there is some record anyway that this guy has a black mark on his
To some
record.
extent, I think it's an institutional knowledge.
They
as
had
you might
one
say.
up in just a couple of years ago in Concord, where the roofer was completely unqualified,
Yeah.
and got it because he was the low bidder,
Yeah.
and then quit in the middle of the company went bankrupt. I don't remember which, and here was
Yeah.
the roof half finished on the
Yeah.
legislative office building, with the scaffolding and everything
Right.
up there, and they had
Yeah.
it. It took them 6 months to find another guy to finish the job.
Yeah.
But if they had some record of it, they would have found out the guy was not reliable. So you got to, and they do for the big projects, Department of Transportation, all the road projects. Those guys, you
Yeah.
know, they're looked at 5 ways from Sunday. But they don't do it for the small, you know, $50,000, $100,000, maybe even $1 million job.
That's a small job.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a small job. Well, you have a
I'm in a
big
different
budget.
world, I guess.
You have a bigger budget up there.
That's right, $5 billion.
So,
It
well,
is.
I think that you're going to make an interesting run, and good luck on your
Yeah.
getting to be one of the 3 four-year
Yes.
jobs that are going to be elected.
Yes, I plan on being an alderman at large.
Okay.
There's no doubt that in my mind about that. Put a lot of work in. If I can't win, then I don't know what it takes to win, because I've
Well, it sounds like you're
Yeah.
putting an organization
Put the
together. You've done a good
It's all
job
about
there.
people. It's all about
You've
people.
put your name in the paper sometimes at some controversial issues, and I think
Yeah.
that's what we want. We want somebody to, you know, keep them awake
Yep.
on the.
Right now, the problem is, I think now that some of my peers know that I'm running at large, the ones that I could sometimes persuade are a little less persuadable, not because of them, but because of it's nonpartisan, but there are blocks,
Oh yeah.
and I've been a couple. The most recent one was the commuter rail ad hoc resolution I put in that just was predetermined.
Well, you know, you have to fight some of that. Maybe
Yeah.
it's time that the voters think that there's need a change. You know, like they did
Yeah.
that 2 years ago.
Right,
4 years.
and that's really the big goal here is, I don't have an agenda to get something passed or another passed. I want the machinery of government to work properly. I would like all 15 people on the Board of Aldermen to be independent. That's number 1, be ethical. Number 2, remain independent. Number 3, work with the team. And number 4, always be ethical. And that's what I would like to happen. We need leadership on the board. And one example, there have been some discussions in the past, or it comes and goes, with decorum and people, arguing something. What we need is someone who gets along enough with people on the personal level that even if they don't generally vote for you, you can look at them and just they respect you as a person enough to oppose
Just have a good
side.
discussion and,
Right.
and everything. And
Right,
if you
and I
don't-
feel that even though I ask pointed questions, I'm used to doing that at where I work. We're all on the same team, and after an hour of giving a presentation review, I feel like I've just been through heck. But I'm used to the fact that questions come because it's not personal, it's business. And I feel that my approach is non-confrontational, and so I don't alienate my peers, and I say all this on my website, but I don't alienate my goals. You need to be able to get people to get along and work together to move forward. And leadership isn't do it my way. Leadership is to delegate the authority, let people get together, try and direct them if possible, and sometimes let things happen where the design isn't what you would want, but because the general collective likes it that way, you can get things accomplished.
Yeah.
And I don't see that sort of open, inclusive leadership
happening to the extent that I think
Well,
we should.
several people on there have been there maybe too long. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you for your time tonight, and I'm sure we'll get together once more before the election. We'll
hopefully.
see how it's running for you, your campaign, and we can just chew over some other items perhaps at
Certainly.
that time, whatever's problem.
Okay.
So thank you all for listening in. This is Carl Seidel, and remember, go to the Nashua City Republican Committee, NashuaGOP.org, and see the events that are coming up. We meet the second Thursday of every month except July and August. We have a big fundraiser in August to stake out. There's details on that. It'll be at the Crown Plaza in August, and other events will be occurring during the fall. So tune in, and thank you for listening. Good night.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.